Welcome to this video tutorial. This one is an introduction to analysis in the family and household, and I just go through a couple of examples of how to analyse in both 10-mark questions, and they could also be used within essay questions, the 20 markers also. So a common question that students and teachers often ask is, how do we show analysis in our answers? And hopefully this video tutorial will explain exactly what it is, give some examples of how it might be used, and the focus is on family and households topics on paper 2. So knowing what analysis is really important, as marks can be gained on all the extended questions. It's part of the AO3 assessment objective, which is on most questions. The only ones that it isn't is the 4 and the 6 marks on the A-level paper. And according to Napier Press textbook, which is the web text, they state that analysis is breaking down an argument into smaller parts to show how it fits together, showing similarities and differences of views on the issue in the question, and having a logical answer with a clear introduction, logical chain of reasoning leading to a relevant conclusion. But still, students struggle to see exactly what they have to do. So I've picked this way of encouraging students to analyse in the last year, and I am afraid that I can't remember who shared this with me. However, if it is you, I thank you, as myself and my students will be eternally grateful, because I think it's an absolute brilliant way of encouraging students to analyse. So when you are analysing, especially on the topics such as family and household, I recommend cages. So what exactly does that mean? So put simply, whatever you're looking at, whether it's childhood, gender roles, functions or roles of the family, family diversity, policies, is the point or statement that you have made a generic one, or can we add some more detailed information if we look at it from a different angle? So you've got to use your sociological imagination, so to speak. I want you to encourage to say, well, this causes this means this, and here's the outcome. So we're going to explore this in a little bit more details. So here's example number 1. So a typical question in the couples topic centres around this debate. Okay, the division of the division of labour is now more equal as there is joint conjugal roles, leading us to a symmetrical family. And basically, is the division of labour more equal? And the headline essentially is, yes it is. But this is where the analysis comes in, because we don't want to make a sweeping statement that applies to all couples, because we know that the division of labour being more equal is not true of all couples. So firstly, for example, what part of the division of labour are we talking about? Is it referring to the household chores or the childcare? Or can we talk about paid work? And secondly, does it apply to everyone? Well, no. So firstly, there is a generational gap. So we're looking at the age. There is a generational gap between older, more traditional couples who tend to follow a more segregated conjugal role, whereas when we look at younger couples, they tend to have more joint conjugal roles. This is largely due to women entering the workforce, and this means there has been a generational shift, leading to a more symmetrical family, but older couples predominantly still follow the traditional gender roles. Another example in the debate, we assume that the couples, and this is talking about the sexuality, that the couples are heterosexual. But we're in a postmodern world. There's an increase in same-sex couples. So this means when we explore the debate, we don't want to assume that same-sex couples follow the traditional male-female roles. They tend to negotiate. They tend to have more shared roles, shared emphasis on childcare, more equal value placed on each partner's jobs. So in the case of same-sex couples, they tend to have a more symmetrical family. And lastly, we could talk about class. Working class couples tend to work longer hours, more unsociable hours, with working class women fitting any paid work that they do around childcare. This means that if the woman is working part-time, she still does more housework. And this is where you can start to bring in the dual burden and the triple shift. Whereas a middle-class woman who might work full-time, 9 till 5, they can then afford childcare. And where the research shows where the woman works full-time, she does less housework and it is more equally shared. Another example that we could use to show analysis is in the childhood topic. Has there been a march of progress, meaning that childhood has improved? The headliner is yes, generally children are better cared for, they have more rights, better educated. However, when we start to go into more detail, when we start to analyse it, it's not a universal thing. So if we look at the class out of the cages, children from middle class background have more resources, they have better life experiences, they're better educated, and the families are basically more child-centred. They go on more holidays, they do more things as a family. To a certain extent, however, if they are more likely to use childcare, it could be an electronic babysitters, they might be using iPads because they can afford it. That might not mean that the family is better for children. Likewise, working class children are more likely to get ill, have more likely to have childhood diseases, hyperactivity, smaller babies, live in damp or cramped conditions, more likely to be placed on the child protection register. So this then means childhood isn't better for all children. And lastly, we can talk about the ethnicity. Ethnic groups, Asian parents are more likely to be strict towards their daughters and subject girls to the idea of family honour, more so than boys. And we've got further analysis in terms of the gender. Girls tend to be more protected by their parents, whereas boys have more freedom. Girls are expected to do more housework than boys. This means not all childhoods are the same. It's not got better for all children. Okay, so we're moving away from making sweeping statements and we're starting to analyse it. The third and final example is from the family diversity topic, and this is a massive topic, so it can be analysed quite well. So if we look at class, family structure differs between the classes. Middle class bring their children differently up from working class. When families break down, reconstituted families and lone parent families are more likely to be in poverty. Therefore, working class families are more likely to be poor, more likely to be reliant on existing family networks, especially for financial support. When we look at age, younger couples are more likely to value marriage, less likely to value marriage, meaning a decline in marriage, whereas older couples are. And this will show why there is an increase in remarriage, who are more likely to be from older couples. They've already married once, they're more likely to get divorced, they're more likely to marry again. And this means younger couples are more likely to cohabit, meaning there's a movement away from this nuclear family, which is what the statements are saying. In the past, there was a stigma attached to the divorce. In the past, divorce was more available to men. Men could divorce unfaithful wives, but women had to prove cruelty in addition to being unfaithful. So with the equalising of the means to get divorced means there are more women choosing not to remain married. Likewise, women entering the workforce means that women are no longer financially dependent on their husbands, so they have the means to leave an unhappy marriage. So this means we are moving away from the nuclear family. You hear me saying quite a few times now, so this means this. This means this, and this is what we are talking about it in the logical chain of reasoning. Everything leads on to the next statement that you make. Lastly, there's an increase in same-sex couples due to a change in legislation such as the Civil Partnership Act. This change in legislation signals a change in attitudes, meaning a decline in the stigma attached to same-sex couples. Therefore, there's been an increase, which has contributed to the nuclear family no longer being the norm. Notice how I made the link back to the original statement there. So overall, when exploring issues in the family and household, consider the point that you were making, try and view it from a different angle, breaking it down further from making it a generic point about couples, childhood, marriages, diversity and so on, and start to explore the different types, showing that you have got good sociological imagination. So hopefully you have got something of value from this video tutorial. As always, massive thank you for listening. If you like it, please click like. Please explore some of the other videos that I have in my resources now. There is another one which is analysing during research methods, so that might be something that you want to watch as well. But as always, any comments, please pop them below and check out some of the other videos. Have a fantastic day, and I shall speak to you again soon.